This program is brought to you by the Media Liberty Alliance Foundation in cooperation with OBBM Network TV, bringing citizen-led, creative local media to the forefront of local communities to foster a greater understanding of constitutional liberty and appreciation of what makes us truly free, starting with you and me.
The Zach Rateliff Show is brought to you by Mortgage Financial in Texarkana, Exceed Health Clinic on Mullen Drive in Texarkana, Elmwood Custom Goods, and Church on the Rock, Texarkana. That's churchontherock.org.
New York's legislature voted to get rid of the terms mother and father and replace them with gestating parent and non-gestating parent. They want to be inclusive of gender-confused people, but isn't it time we stop this madness and let science, backed by biblical truth, guide public policy? God created us male or female is a fact. To deny this hurts gender-confused people more than it helps them. I'm Pastor John Miller. Visit me at churchontherock.org.
Hello and welcome to the Zach Rateliff Show. I'm Zach, and I've got the honor of having my dad in here, Danny Rateliff. Hey, Dad, how are you?
I'm doing great. Glad that you have me on, and I want to say thank you. Just proud of you for the success you've had. I noticed this show reached in the top 20 of conservative podcasts in America, and it reaches out all over the nation of the great United States of America and in many foreign countries. So I'm proud of you for your success that you've had.
Oh man, thank you. That means so much. Actually, I was showing Nori on our stats yesterday how we had 1,600. Was it 1,600 or 16,000? I think it's only 1,600 regular listeners in the United Kingdom.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's good. Hey, welcome you guys in the United Kingdom. We're glad that we've had a lot of your citizens over here for the World Cup, and they're getting to experience the real American experience. And for you guys that are international, as I've traveled internationally, which I've had the blessing to do quite a bit, your media lies just like ours does. And
Exactly
you know, and I kind of look at, you know, when I was a kid and going through school, you know, there was a different type of person that was drawn to journalism. A lot of them were good people, but they had a different thought process than a business person, and their perspective on life as they are in film or media. You know, they just have a different way of looking at things than the normal working redneck like me.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. And you can see it come out in every way and then, you know, that's what we've always said about the film industry. Of course, I don't know anything about the film industry, but if everybody that thinks the same goes to the same place and does the same thing, then you're going to get the same opinion. Right.
And so, you know, if you guys are listening and you don't agree with my opinion, hey, we'll agree to disagree, but we can still be friends about it. And you know, it's no, you know, skin off of my nose. I just appreciate you listening, and you're going to get the perspective of a guy that I've kind of had a varied life of athletics and outdoorsmanship and owning multiple businesses. And so I have my own unique view, which may be different than yours, but that doesn't mean we're enemies. We can still be friends and all get along, and we'll just have different opinions. I try to, you know, if you use the Bible as your standard, you know, we can be more in agreement.
Yeah.
We might not agree about everything, but we can agree on the most important things. And if you don't use the Bible as your standards, hey, we can still be friends. But, you know, I'll just urge you to consider that, hey, don't tell me if you hadn't read it. You know, I own a Quran. I own a Bible. I've read the majority of both of those. And, you know, Jesus was as the Muslims say, he was a prophet and a good man. And he was a prophet and a good man, but he claimed to be God.
Yeah.
If you've seen me, you've seen the Father.
Yeah.
You know, I am the great I am. And so if you, you know, if you're not a believer in JC, if we mentioned his name too many times, some of these providers will cut us off, and we'll go down from tens of thousands of listeners down to hundreds of listeners. So we may just
see happen.
We may just call him JC.
Yeah.
Moving forward here today. But anyway, thanks for having me, Zach. I'm so proud of you and your real estate empire that you've bought and being nominated for Realtor of the Year over here in East Texas, Southwest Arkansas. I'm glad your career is going well.
Oh man, thank you. Well, I wasn't expecting all that, but thank you so much. And I think, and I talk about it often, I have 3 principles I try to live by. And I know you listen to the show, and I know you know them, but for those of you that are new, here's what they are. Number 1, like my dad said, he believes it, and probably a big part of why I believe it. Jesus is the only way to heaven. He is the way, the truth, and the life, and no man gets to the Father but through him. So that's principle number 1. Number 2, I want to be a good dad to my little girl. Number 3, I want to be a good son. Now, if you could go on from there, number 4, I'm a conservative. Number 5, but I think the first 3, Dad, lead to number 4 of being a conservative, of wanting to be an active role and all that. So that's kind of what drives the show. But before we get into some of these news articles, we got some Supreme Court stuff I want to talk about, and just so everybody knows, I didn't prepare him at all. So we're just gonna go, but usually for a better show like that,
we're just flying by the seat of our pants here. But I do keep up with politics, and so like I say, if you don't care for my opinion, that's fine. But it's the opinion of someone that owns multiple business, has done well in this world, and I am well informed on a lot of these issues because they affect me directly and my employees and my staff and my friends. And so, I think we'd like to start off, Zach, with just saying, hey, what is a conservative? What is it to conserve?
Yeah.
Hey, keep your money.
Right.
Don't
a crazy concept.
Don't waste money. Let's conserve the things that we have. And what is it to be a progressive, and to me, when I hear the word progressive, that means we're making progress toward what end? We're making progress away from the Constitution of the United States and away from the biblical principles that this country was founded on. And to me, that's no progress at all. To me, it's just, communism became a bad word, after they, murdered 300 million people. So it was nicer to say socialism. Right. Well, that's been a huge failure. So we couldn't call them socialists anymore. Well, let's liberal. Well, that didn't work out. So now we're progressive. We're progressing away from the old school Bible. We're progressing away from the Constitution. And I don't think that's progress at all. But anyway, that's the perspective that I have from my simple life that, hey, I'll conserve and I'll take care of me and mine. And how about you take care of you and yours? I've never understood, Zach, why it's greedy if I keep the money that I earned, but it's not greedy if a communist, socialist, liberal, progressive takes the money that I earned.
That's exactly right. Why? Well, it's the story, and I know you know it, of, I believe it was Davy Crockett when he was in Congress. Old boy's house burned down, and they sends a letter to Congress, and hey, I need, whatever it was, $1,000, or I can't remember the amount, with the Congress to help me rebuild my house.
Right. Yeah, I'm familiar with that story, and how I recall it is it was a constituent of Davy Crockett who wrote him a letter and said, "Dear sir, you voted to give congressional United States money to rebuild this neighborhood in Washington, D.C. that had burned down. And while that might be a noble cause, you cannot put your finger on the article in the Constitution that allows you to take my money, even it's for a worthy cause. Mm-hmm. Therefore, I shall not vote for you in the future." And Davy Crockett read that to the Congress, and I have yet to see where someone can lay their finger on the article of the Constitution that allows them to take money from the half of Americans that work and give it to those who choose not to work. There's nothing constitutional about that.
No, or biblical.
Or biblical. I mean, we are commanded by Jesus. Jesus said the poor will always be with us. Yeah. I mean, we're not going to ever get rid of poverty, although he does command us to help the orphans,
Yeah. And
the widows, people that can't take care of themselves, maybe the mentally disabled. But for the people that just choose not to work, and now since the Great Society, we have spent as a United States government enough money to purchase the Fortune 500 companies.
Yeah.
And yet poverty is worse than it was before. So you could say, well, it was a noble cause. Maybe it was in some people's mind, but now that we have the empirical evidence, this has not worked.
Yeah.
It obviously hasn't worked. It's worse than it was before. We have now 4 generations of people that have been raised on welfare. Mm-hmm. And then you have to look and go, okay, was this really to help? Well, or have we just made voting plantations out of the projects where we're going to keep you poor, we're going to give you barely enough survive, and then you vote for these Democrat liberal policies, and that keeps us in power. So we have the power.
Well, and let me give an example that you and I've talked about a bunch of times, but as you know, I managed banks and all the things. And, I had a girl come in that she was 45 and a great grandma lady. And she was a great grandma. And I'm like, what? Great grandma? And she said, well, my daughter is 30. Her daughter is 15. And her daughter was just born. Now, in 45 years, that's 4 generations raised in the poverty mindset that we've allowed our government to create. And I will now, at this point, place as much blame on Republicans as I do Democrats, because they may have used to been against it, but at this point, it's just everybody's just getting paid, so they don't care. So that's what we're talking about in all of this. Let's back up a little bit. You said you're a business person. You said you got athletic background. Kind of give us a little, your elevator, who you are type deal, just so people understand, okay, why is this impactful to him?
Okay, well, just to briefly go through my bio, grew up in a small town in southwest Arkansas, Hope, Arkansas. A couple of famous politicians from there, Bill Clinton, might have heard of that guy. Yeah. And a guy that we're real proud of there, Mike Huckabee. Yeah. Wound up from Hope, Arkansas. In fact, his mom and my mom worked in the same office, for 30 years, retired together. So great guy, great family. Janet, Mike's wife, played basketball with my sister. I mean, we go way back with, as a family. And then the town that I reside in now, Texarkana, USA, which is on the Arkansas-Texas border, not far from Louisiana, not far from Oklahoma. And so this is where Sarah Huckabee, the great governor of Arkansas, grew up here as a kid. Mm-hmm. So we're real proud of those. You might have heard another guy from Texarkana named Ross Perot. Mm-hmm. Ross Perot is a Texarkana native. And in my opinion, Ross Perot, entered the 92 presidential election, sucked the votes away from George H.W. Bush, therefore allowing Bill Clinton to become the president with only 43% of the vote.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of things in this area, a lot of famous people, a lot of famous politicians, of course, huge number of professional athletes from this area. It's just unbelievable. And so, kind of sporting and outdoors, goes through our community here. Yeah. But, I've been fortunate to be an outdoorsman in the Boone and Crockett World Record Book. I've done all the things, bass fishing. I'm a crappie fisherman by nature. Took karate from a guy, Waylon Lacey, that's in the Martial Arts Hall of Fame, studied that for a long time. And then
you're a national champion.
Well, yeah, we have things like that. But I've owned several businesses. I've always been a venture capitalist as far as, flipped real estate, had Zach bidding on real estate when he was 15, 16 years old. I'd send him out in his little red truck and, hey, go appraise this property for me, see if it's worth a purchase. And sometimes he'd say, no, that's not good. This one's not good. Hey, we might want to go look at this place. So that's how he wound up in the real estate business, kind of always had an aptitude for that. So he's done hundreds and hundreds of deals. And, it's been a pretty good life for me. And I certainly have a thought process of someone that's been in the business world with a lot of employees and, just the financial burden of the tax system and how hard it is. And for anybody that doesn't own a business in the United States, I mean, the small business in the United States, which, is defined by 500 employees or less, it's the driver of the United States economy.
Yes.
It produces, 70 to 75% of the jobs. So we don't get the big tax cuts and deductions and all the things that the corporate people get. Of course, we're all incorporated, either subchapter S or a limited liability corporation, or sometimes you might be a C corp. But every year I have business friends that say, "Well, my CPA told me I made $1 million this year, but I don't know where it is." No.
Yeah.
Oh, you made it, but you didn't get to keep it.
Yeah.
So
you might have been negative 10,000.
Yeah. No. So for don't understand. And nobody can really understand the tax code. I've used 10 different CPAs, and I can get 10 different answers every time I do it. And you send your stuff in, and this IRS says, "Nope, you owe another 10,000." I'm like, "Well, if you knew how much I owed, why don't you just send me a bill, and I won't have to pay that guy $10,000 to tell me the wrong answer." But if you're in the top tax bracket, you're paying 37% of your income.
Yeah.
Well, if you're then you got your Social Security at 7.65. What if you're in business for yourself, and self-employed, you got another 7.65 on top of that. So what are we up to now?
Yeah, it's 15 on 37 right there.
Right. Then okay, well, let's talk 10% sales tax. Okay, well, you own any property? Well, that's another 10% right there. Then you got your license fees. The government's sucking us out for 65, 70% of our income.
Right.
And then you hear, the liberals on the media saying, well, the rich don't pay their fair share. I've never been rich, but I've known some rich people, and they certainly paid more than their fair share. I think the top 5% pay 40% of the federal income tax.
Yeah, it might be higher than that.
I think that's the top 1%, really.
Yeah, I think that's the top 1%.
Top 5%, I think, pay 75%.
Yeah, I think that's right.
And then and you can look this up. It's a quick little. If you're on X, whichever one of you listen, if you're a listener here, you need to be on X. There's a little icon at the bottom. It looks like a do not enter sign. You click on that, and you can ask any question, just like Google or Siri or anything else. So it's more conservative based. So I don't prefer to use Chat GPT, because I'll give you an example. If you ask a question about the Quran, it won't give you an answer. If it's about,
Chat GPT you're talking about.
Yeah, Chat GPT won't tell you, where it says, kill the infidels, kill them till there are no more, lie in wait and kill them.
Yeah, well,
it won't tell you that. But
you're just making that up. It doesn't say that.
It actually doesn't. Google it. DuckDuckGo it.
DuckDuckGo it. That's the key.
Grok it. It does say that.
Yeah.
There's over 100 instances, and I have a Quran, and I'll be glad to share it with you. But if you look in the Bible and ask them, ask ChatGPT, what does John 3:16 say? Well, it'll tell you.
Mm-hmm.
So, why will it tell you things about the Bible, but it won't tell you the negative things in the Quran? So I just got off on a tangent there, Zach.
That's what this is about.
But I know there's a lot of conservatives and Christians, and so I know there's some guy that's driving out to the paper mill this morning, and he goes, "Hey, those guys think what I think."
Well, that's been the amazing part of this, Dad. Is we've got, like I said, tens of thousands of people listen every day now, and as it goes, and they're like, but I have people like, well, what are you saying that makes people want to listen? I said, I don't know if it makes them want to listen, but once they hear it, we're speaking the truth as, putting the GOB on it, the good old boy. This is the way real people see it. I don't need you sitting in your fancy office, and if you are, that's fine too. But I don't need you telling me what to think. I just need you telling me what you think, and then I'm going to depend on the people that are listening here to disseminate the information, take from the conversation the parts that they like and the parts that they don't. You don't have to, and then make educated decisions.
Well, I agree totally. And then a lot of times you're listening because you want to confirm that the things that you believe, people also believe, and they're based in facts.
Well, to your point that you made earlier, with the World Cup, okay, we all felt, that believe like most of the listeners here and you and I, we all felt like, hey man, the media's lying to us. We're just getting a bad rep around the world. Well, then all these Europeans and others come and they're like, oh, especially the Australians, our media's been lying to us. Just like you said, this place is the greatest country in the world. They can't. So But once again, you need outlets like this that confirm. We've got some Australian listeners, so it's just that kind of thing that keeps feeding itself.
That's exactly right. And I've been, will be about this time next month in Canada, paddling a canoe through some of the most beautiful country in the world, up in the Quetico Provincial Park, and sleeping in a hammock and making about a 50-60 mile round trip and seeing some pictograms and things that nobody's seen, not very many people in this world have seen. And it's just an awesome experience. But when I talk to the natives there and watch their news while I'm staying at the hotel getting ready to go on this adventure, it's totally made up. Everything that they say, like they're, in their news media, the United States is just full of gun deaths. There's just gun deaths on every corner. And look at how many thousands of gun deaths. And of course, for us conservatives that actually keep up, the majority of gun deaths in the United States are from suicide.
Mm-hmm.
And the others are gang related. And then I think only like 3% are actual murder.
Right. And of that, when they try to take away the rifles, none of them hardly are with rifles.
Yeah, most of that is with pistols. So, I mean, if you're not in a gang and you don't commit suicide, the probability of you dying from a gun death in America is like 0.0001. I mean, it's just not going to happen unless, now there is, I forgot to throw in accidental shootings.
Yeah.
People shoot themselves on accident sometimes, but other than that, and then you look at how they factor, the school shooters. Well, some drug dealers got in a argument across the street from a school and shot each other. That goes as a school shooting.
Right.
I mean, if you look at even if you consider mass shootings, 3 people or more, most of that's gang violence, and it's basically all in the progressive, the liberal, the socialist, the communist cities.
Because there is no liberal state. There's liberal cities that weigh those down.
Right. And then while we're talking, I saw an illustration on this yesterday. Los Angeles County, California, has a greater population than 40 states in the United States.
Just Los Angeles County.
Just Los Angeles County.
Okay.
So if you were to have Los Angeles County, New York City, Philadelphia, if you take some of the big metropolitan areas, 5 of the big socialist metropolitan areas, they would rule if we just went with popular vote.
Yeah.
And so that's why the communist, socialist, liberal, progressives always want to go do away with the electoral college, because, right across the border over here where I live is Arkansas. Where I live in Texas, but it's not far to Arkansas. It's not far to Louisiana. Louisiana or Arkansas, for example, no one would care what your vote wouldn't matter if it was a popular vote, because you would be outvoted. So, it's been a 100-year plan for the progressives to fill these cities with foreigners, illegal aliens, welfare people. Look at
even here locally. So Tyler, Texas, Longview, Texas, they round their homeless up and put them on buses and send them here.
Yeah, because we have a better homeless, take care of the homeless.
So, I mean, I know that's not exactly where you're going, but still, it's impactful.
Oh, it is impacts your city, but how it is impactful is, and I've had the opportunity to travel to, most of the large cities in the United States, and been a pleasure to do that. Always enjoy. Had a great time when I've been in New York. I loved Chicago. Of course, we didn't go down in the area where everybody was getting shot, but Los Angeles, Beverly Hills, just got back from San Francisco. It was in Seattle. I've been to all those places, so I've seen all that. But what I've noticed in all these Democrat cities is they flood it with the population of uneducated welfare recipients, and those are their voters. The voters for the Democrat Party are multimillionaires And their top funder is George Soros, who's an atheist.
Yeah.
And he funds these
And
Democrats.
now his sons.
Now his sons have a big organization. So I think he's 93 years old. When he dies, I mean, it's going to just continue.
Yeah.
And, you know, they're to destroy the United States. And so you go and take and they realized they couldn't, these progressive policies wouldn't win at the ballot box. So what do? You go funnel and pay for a progressive district attorney in these smaller communities and just let all the murderers out.
Yeah,
I mean,
which is what's happening.
Yeah, the crime is not that hard to figure out, is it, Zach? It's 1% of the people are committing 80% of the violent crime. Let's keep them in jail.
It's just like most people go to an office or to their work or whatever, and there's one person that causes the problems that changes the office. Okay, you can't bring tuna fish for lunch anymore because, Fred kept warming it up in the microwave, stank the kitchen up. I mean, it's the same thing on every scale. One thing you did say that I want to go back to was the guns and talk about that and how that's I saw reported in multiple places yesterday. So these Europeans are coming over here and it's hot. It's hot here. I mean, it's going to be 95 plus every day this week, although it's getting down in the 70s. So we're not to our heat wave yet because we're going to get some relief at night. However, the Europeans are also having a heat wave, which is not in the 90s, but because of their social policies, they're not allowed to run their air conditioners because their grid can't take it because they wanted to go with wind and solar, which doesn't, it might work as an add-on, but it doesn't work in replacement of gas and coal and nuke power plants. So there are more people now dying per year in Europe due to heat deaths than there are in America dying from gun deaths. How wild is that?
Yeah, as a percentage, I'm sure that's true. But I'll tell you how smart we were in Texas. Back in the Obama years, Obama killed 5 coal plants in Texas.
Yeah.
He has had a war on coal in America. And so in Texas, our coal plants aren't underground up in a mountain like in West Virginia. They're just a strip of land. It looks like you've got a big track hoe out there digging up dirt and you run it through and extract the coal and put everything else back. But, a lot of times that's used for, water filters, filtration systems.
Yeah.
A lot of it's not even burnt, so it's not bad for the environment at all. I mean,
if you like your brittle water filter or your whatever, there's coal in there.
That's right. But let's say in August, when all you people that don't know, like Zach was saying, it's 97 degrees here today, and I worked out in it all day yesterday, and about every 2 hours, I'd go stand in the shade because over there in the shade, it was only 89 degrees. But we don't think anything about it. Drink you some water and move along. It's just part of life here.
Yeah.
But as far as when Obama killed the coal industry in Texas here, so we put in windmills, you remember? So let me ask you people, make sure that everyone understands, and the people in Texas certainly know, when we have a heat wave in Texas in August, let me assure you one thing that does not happen. The wind does not blow.
Ever. Not in August.
Not 1 mile an hour would you have any wind. So there we have no wind, those windmills. And for people that live in the large cities that are listening and haven't seen, as we travel across the topography, the landscape of Central America, you can see hundreds of acres of wind farm. At all times, 25% of them don't work.
Not even spinning.
They won't even spin. They're just sitting there turning. There's always a couple that each one has like 90 gallons of crude oil in it.
Yeah.
Refined to some degree. But you can see that spilling down the sides.
Just running down.
And you'll see some of them will have a broken blade, which are non-disposable. There's nothing you can do with them. Right. So it's an environmental hazard.
And also, people don't understand. Most people have never passed one of these on a highway or gone bird hunting in a field where there's something. When you're standing under one or you're driving under one, they're stories and stories high. They're larger than a lot of skyscrapers. I mean, these things, it's taken it takes escort cars and semi trucks with extended trailers to pull one blade. I mean, these aren't just, it's not Little House on the Prairie and this is what's on your well.
That's exactly right. I'll see them coming down United States Highway 59, and there'll be a semi tractor pulling one blade, and that one blade will maybe be the length of 5 or 6 semi trailers.
Yeah.
I mean, those things are massive.
Right.
And without government subsidies, they can't produce enough energy to even break even.
Well, that's why they need you paying 70% of your taxes.
That's exactly right.
That's the deal there. Well, even when you look across the street and there's gas, right, and gas prices are starting to fall. We didn't even factor here locally. It's 39 or 49 cents between state and federal gas tax,
right?
That there is, which, in the end, I think this is just all to control us.
Well, as President Donald J. Trump has stated, if we would use our tariffs properly and tell the rest of the world who all, have to have the United States consumer to purchase their products, the tariffs off of those purchases could pay our taxes like they did before 1913. Yeah. We don't need an income tax. And for all you people that are, losing your Cheerios and screaming and throwing stuff at your radio or throwing stuff at your phone or however you're listening to this.
Dunked it in the tub because you're mad about
this guy's an idiot. Let me just say, Barack Obama, when he was confronted on a live interview with the facts that, hey, every time, not sometimes, not most times, every time there's a tax increase, the government gets less money.
Yeah.
Every time there's a tax decrease, the government gets more revenue.
Yeah.
So it's a proven empirical fact that raising taxes gives the government less income. But Barack Obama's response was, well, it's more about equity, which, let me translate that for everybody that didn't understand that. What equity means is, I'm going to take from those I don't like, and I'm going to give to those who do like. I do like because I do like those that vote for me, and I don't like those who don't.
Let me ask you some questions based on personal experience then about this equity thing.
Okay.
So you've said that you have businesses and employees, and you don't. This is going to be the liberal stance that we can give the other. So you don't feel like you should be able to make it more equitable for somebody to do what you've done? And then I would think, and I'll let you respond, your equity was gained in a watermelon field in Hope, Arkansas. Your equity was building these businesses, hoping they made it so you could get to have an employee. That's where it came from. It didn't come from somebody giving you anything.
Well, once again, Zach, if we use the Bible as our standard, when we go to the 10 Commandments, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Well, what does covet mean?
Yeah.
Thou shalt not covet. That means envy. I should not be mad at my neighbor because he has a nicer house than me. I shall not be mad at my neighbor because he has a bigger business than me. I shall not be mad at my neighbor. So is there anything in equity that is anything other than envy and coveting, which is a sin and against one of the 10 Commandments as a biblical scholar? Now, being a liberal is the easiest thing to be.
Oh, for sure.
Because you don't have to do anything. You don't have to say anything. Really, I say it's for cowards.
Yeah.
Because you can say, hey, I don't have, and it's your fault.
Yeah.
There's only one pie, and you have most of it. And if I have a little tiny piece of the pie, and you have a larger piece of the pie, and because you have that larger piece, I have a tiny piece. That's not true. Look at Elon Musk. He just made the pie bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got a huge piece of it, but because of him, we all have a bigger piece.
Even, not directly, but because of X and because of the internet and because of, we can have this show.
Oh, exactly. Now, I'm not a Bill Gates fan.
Right.
He's done a lot of bad things. My personal opinion, I don't know the man. He's not a good person. I think he stole a lot of his stuff. He bankrupted a lot of people.
Right.
He's done a lot of really bad things. But now, every person that hears this is touched by Microsoft technology. Because of that is why you're listening today.
Yeah, that's right.
MS-DOS started out. Now we've got Microsoft Windows. It's on your computer. Look at Steve Jobs. Now, you say, well, those guys are greedy and they got rich. Okay, your life is easier because those guys got rich. Had they not done that and they had volunteered at the soup kitchen in your local community and helped the homeless, those are worthy goals, and I admire people that do those. Did that benefit humanity as much as these guys that got wealthy? It did not.
Well, sticking with your biblical principles, that's the whole give a man a fish, teach a man to fish. I can help this one person or maybe 15 people at the soup kitchen, or I can develop something that changes the world for the better and everyone can improve their station because of it. Right? I mean, is that right?
That's exactly how I see it. And then, and I want to think, you say, I saw the guy that owns the UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championship,
Dana White.
He kind of made the point of, you can raise everybody's station in life, but let's just use the example of, I always like to use the example when liberals are saying, well, we need to divide up the pie. Everything needs to be equitable. I like to use the example of the Titanic. Everybody in the listening audience, whether you're in Scotland or Ireland, England, Texas, wherever you are, everybody listen to this example. We were on the Titanic. It sank. There's lifeboats. We all get in the lifeboat. Let's say that the lifeboat will hold 100 people. But we have 200 people on the lifeboat. Mm-hmm. There's lifeboats everywhere. Every one of them has 200 people. If we put one or two more people on, the whole lifeboat is going to sink and everybody on the lifeboat is going to drown. But there's people in the water.
So are you slapping them with the paddle or are you sinking the whole boat?
So do you go over there and get 10 more and everybody in your boat dies? Or do you get those other people? And that's the United States of America. We are a wealthy country, but we're $37 trillion in debt.
Yeah.
Okay. But those people need help. That's true. But do we sink our lifeboat to help them and then nobody gets help? Or do we help the people in America and then we grow and we prosper and then we send money to 140 nations? I mean, what else can we do?
And the Taliban.
Yeah, and the $40 million to the Taliban every week, which Tim Burchett is trying to stop, and the Congress will not pass it, even the Republicans.
Yeah, that's right. Well, to your point with what you started with, what is a conservative? If we were to be conservative fiscally, I mean, socially, I could agree with that too, but just from a fiscal standpoint, and then we were to rein in the spending and we were to do it, and then our economy grows because of that, because now we have some breathing room. Now we can take a breath. Now the interest rates come down. Now prices aren't inflated. Now we aren't paying, to this point, a gold bar in 1940 would buy you a common middle-class house. And a gold bar today will buy you a common middle-class house. The gold hasn't changed. We've inflated the price. So if we, through conservatism, change this and made it, well, then we can go back, like you're saying, and we can pick these people up and we can help them and we can go build a church there. We can go dig a well in Mexico or Africa, or we can go to Haiti and help that group down there. But you can't do it if you don't have any money.
Yeah. Let's talk about Haiti. I've actually been to Haiti, been on mission trips there, and the Christian charities, Christian churches have done more for Haiti than any kind of, voodoo at one time was the official religion of Haiti. That's what they said.
That's real.
But I've been there. I've been up in the mountains. The mountains of Haiti look like Colorado Springs, Colorado.
Do they?
They're beautiful. And then they have the pristine beaches down by the ocean, it's no different than Jamaica.
Huh.
I mean, it's just a beautiful place. But because of how it's run, the population of Port-au-Prince, Haiti is about the same as Chicago. They have one working light and no trash pickup. Just throw your trash out the window.
Just
You
out
know,
of the
if
house.
you're drinking, they have little bags of water. If you thought, get a little bag of water, drink it, just throw it on the floor. You know, it's a French-speaking country. I mean, let's throw it on the ground. There's just trash everywhere. But the Christians, you see, and it's Catholics, it's Protestants, there's missions everywhere, and you'll see, a bus go by, and it'll say, "Praise be to Jesus." I mean, they have made a huge difference, and those people, they'll walk 10 miles through the ghetto facing death to come every single day to praise and worship. So, I mean, every American needs to go see, okay, this is what it could be. Or,
Right.
we could have this system of government that our founding fathers researched hundreds of years of history and came up with. They didn't just invent it out of whole cloth.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. And I went through, most people probably hear it. Well, anyway, on the last show I recorded, Jefferson and Washington and these guys talking about this being a Christian nation. And we're being sold on the fact that it's not, but it is. George Washington claimed that we had a covenant with God. And so as we get farther from it, especially if you go through those, I refer to them all the time, the 45 points of the communist plan on how to get how to take over America, it's to get us away from God. The farther we get, the worse things become. But that's with the Bible as your guidepost through history. That's what happened to the Jews in the Bible. Every time they would stray, things got worse. And then he'd send a judge, or he'd send a ruler, or he'd send Esther or whoever, and reel them back in. And then again they would, okay, yeah, we're going to get right. And then the next thing you know, they're worshiping Baal, which we do here through the child sacrifice and all that we have in this country. And so then the farther it gets, then it gets horrible. Then God said, okay, come on back.
Yeah, every person on the face of this earth has benefited from Christianity. And you say, that's not true. It is true. Our form of government was based on Christianity.
Yeah.
The Magna Carta. I mean, you go through all the things through history. And did the Catholics do bad things? Yes, they did. And that's, if you're a Protestant, well, that's your history too. It's not just Catholic history. You came from them. And that's your history. So bad things have happened, but our form of government, that's why.
Yeah.
It all was based in Christians, and the majority of the framers of the Constitution were preachers. They were Christian preachers.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Even kind of like I had Pam Little in here the other day, and she's on the State Board of Education for Texas. And we were talking about, and I don't remember if it was on the show or not, and I won't divulge anything that I shouldn't, but talking about, there's a heavy push by the Muslim community to say that, that was a Muslim part of Texas history, was the Alamo. And then they just had people down in Austin, Muslims, saying, the Muslims were there. Like, there's no history. However, we're allowing our history to be rewritten in such a way that we're forgetting where we came from, and which is just crazy to me. And so we have to go back and remind people of our founders being preachers, of the things that happened. Yeah, the Christians did some bad things. Also, if you go back to pre-Crusades, Christendom was being taken over and killed by Muslims. So you look at Vlad the Impaler was a horrible guy, and he did some really bad things. But what he also did was stop his country from being taken over by Muslims by putting spikes up and putting the heads of every Muslim that came into his country on the border and saying, hey, this is what happens.
The Muslim Crusaders had conquered Europe all the way into Spain.
Yeah.
And then the Christian Crusades were based on, finally, they're like, hey, we can't negotiate with these people. And the Crusades started and pushed them back to the Middle East.
Yeah. Holy Land.
And the Holy Land, and it hasn't stopped to today. I mean, they're commanded to kill us.
And they can lie to us, and they can lie in pursuit of converting us. Oh, yeah, we don't believe that. Oh, yeah, we want to have it, until they're the majority.
Right. And it's a simple thing. There's three pillars of it. You can convert. You can
convert. You can willfully be a slave.
Third class citizen.
Yeah, that's what it is. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Or you can die.
Yeah,
that's it. There's no other option.
Right. Yeah. Well, and this ties to an article I actually had for us to talk about. It's from Richard Citizen at RCJPOCTNER. But Richard Citizen on X.com, breaking a retired sergeant in Texas has exposed that Muslims have set up their own command center with weapons, armored vehicles, and a training facility here in Texas. Let's have no doubt the plan.
Oh yeah, we're getting all kind of mosque here in Texas, but let's just talk about why some of these progressive cities. Why would you want an illegal alien intruder to be a police officer, to be in the military? Could it be because they're not going to follow the Constitution? I mean, if you didn't follow the law to get here, I don't understand why people think you're going to follow the law once you get here.
Well, and to that point, where was it? I want to say Illinois, but it might not be Illinois. It might have been Wisconsin or Michigan, where they started allowing illegals to be police officers.
Well, that's one of this is my point, and this is my thought process on this is, hey, when that illegal alien comes and they knock on your door and says, hey, I need you to, I need to come in and see, we heard you had a gun in there. And of course, as an American, you say, well, do you have a search warrant?
Yeah.
I don't need one. Well, the Constitution says you did, so I'm not going to let you in. Well, that illegal doesn't know anything about the Constitution, nor does he care. And so it's easy to control those people when you let foreigners start voting in our elections. How can someone that doesn't love the United States going to rule in the favor of the United States in the case of Ilhan Omar or some of these foreign-born actors that have the Democrats? That's their rulers now, are the Muslims in Congress.
Oh man, I
look at who's it? Barack Hussein Obama, Hakeem Jeffries, Ilhan Omar. I mean, these people are Muslims.
Or what's this guy's name in New York? Mandami.
Mandami. Yeah. I mean, the guy's from Uganda. Of course, grew up a multi-millionaire.
Well, just like Barack Obama, raised by his grandparents.
Well, Barack Obama he grew up part of the time in Indonesia, I think, but by his rich stepfather. But his grandparents were CIA members. His mom worked for USAID, and he'd never visited the continental United States till he was 17. Went to a private school. His name was Barry Santoro.
Right.
He was his Frank Marshall Davis was his mentor, who was a devout communist.
Yeah, him and William Ayers.
And then, he worked with William Ayers, and he launched his political campaign in William Ayers' living room. And everyone that surrounded him, David Axelrod, Valerie Jarrett, who was Iranian and also a communist. David Axelrod was a communist. All of these were red diaper babies. Yeah. Their parents were die-hard communists. And those people that were in only 7% of Barack Obama's cabinet had ever had a job outside academia or government.
That's crazy.
It was a total communist, socialist government. And all you people that are throwing your coffee cup at the phone or throwing your phone out the window driving down the interstate where you live, it's willful ignorance not to know these facts. They're easily looked up on DuckDuckGo or on, go to X. You can ask it any question. It'll tell you the answer. So you don't
have to take our word for it.
Don't kill the messenger.
Yeah.
Don't be mad at me if you don't agree. You don't have to agree, but educate yourself on the facts.
Well, here, riddle this for me. I think it's easy for people now, but I don't think this is a new thing. Say, I've got to take little Johnny to soccer practice, and I've got to, go to do this, or little Susie has to do this, and got to work and all that, and I just don't have time to pay attention now. I often say that a child, when you're interviewing someone in a job interview, and as you know, I've interviewed thousands of people over my career. I'd ask them who their hero is, and if it's not mom, dad, grandpa, aunt, uncle, there's a problem, right? And so for me, it's always been you, right? But that being said, you never allowed us to be ignorant of the world. We did karate, we did soccer, we did football, we did church, we did all the things but yet could still be cognizant of everything that around, within, if I was 10, then I knew what a 10-year-old should know was going on, and all the things, and also built businesses and all of these things. So why do we allow that now to be an excuse of?
Well, now they say that, which I'm not a fan of the New York Times, but it's stated that, one Sunday edition of the New York Times is more information than a person could consume in their lifetime 100 years ago.
Oh, well, there's that.
We have so much information. It is just, where do you get your information? And so when I, in the industry, some of the industries that I'm in, it's personal contact with a cross section of society. So I'm just talking conversations, 30-minute conversations day to day with every single person, teachers and firefighters and unemployed people, and maybe an architect or a nurse or physical therapist, a teacher, whoever. But everybody has their own opinion. But what I've noticed is most people that vote Democrat, they don't watch the news. They get their Facebook feed, and of course, it's 99% negative toward conservatives. And so basically, the people that are conservatives are business people that understand the economy, preachers, Christians, people that are devout, going to church. I mean, I saw a study that said 88% of Republicans are church-going faith believers, and 88% of Democrats have no religious affiliation. I didn't check that.
Right.
But I mean, it kind of fits with my personal experience. I mean, you might be a nominal Christian.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't think I ran into a lady last month, and super nice, best person in the world. So she was mad at ICE for enforcing our immigration laws, and she wanted to help the Catholic charities bring in more illegals. And I said, well, some of these children, the 450,000 children that were sex trafficked in the United States by the Biden administration, got raped 600 or 700 times each per their own verbal
what they told
interview. 600 or 700 times. These little children were being raped. And then Trump's going in and rescuing these people, and you're mad at ICE? And I know it's a noble cause to want to help these poor people that are traveling and they don't have anything. But there's hundreds and thousands of people that die
walking across
here,
the desert,
and they're getting raped and murdered. And then there's nothing compassionate about that. In fact, I've always said that I'm too compassionate to be a liberal.
The Zach Rateliff Show is brought to you by Mortgage Financial in Texarkana, Exceed Health Clinic on Mall Drive in Texarkana, Elmwood Custom Goods, and Church on the Rock, Texarkana. That's churchontherock.org.
Underdog Brazilian fighter Mauricio Ruffy defeated Michael Chandler at the UFC Freedom 250 fight at the White House. In his interview, he called people to give their lives to Jesus Christ. He said, Jesus saved my life, and he wants to save you from the judgment of sin and give you eternal life. So give your life to Jesus. He used his success to tell people about Jesus. We should too. I'm Pastor John Miller. Visit me at churchontherock.org.
I would never trap someone in poverty. And with Zach, with both of us being in the real estate industry, go over to some of these Section 8 housing projects and see how people live.
To that point, this, I've had the opportunity to manage many properties just as you have. And one thing I've done with my daughter, your granddaughter, is, hey, we're going to go do now. It's always been straight up noon, 3 o'clock, day is bright, and I still pick the properties. But hey, we're going to do a property check. I want you to come with me. And then every time, and neither one of us, we don't live like kings. We don't have the biggest house, and we're not, we don't have the best looking horse, but every time when we got back in the truck, she goes, Daddy, I feel sick. Yeah, baby, that's a choice. That's a choice that they live like. That's a choice that you couldn't touch the carpet when you walk in there. That's a choice that they were sitting there watching as we were doing the inspection. That's a choice that they didn't go to work today. That's a choice that Now, but if we went on a walk where someone was trying to change their station, because this is America, and you can change your station, or as in my favorite Heath Ledger movie, Change Your Stars, right? We still have that opportunity. But if you go into one of their houses or one of their apartments, it looks like ours. It's clean. Now, it might not be. Of course, our stuff isn't always the nice stuff either, because we're conservatives. But everything's in good order. They take care of it. And there's pictures of that's the difference too. There's pictures of their family on the wall.
And I'll just say that the people, the lower socioeconomic class in America, it's a designed system. Mm-hmm. People say, well, they're just products of their environment. They're products of the environment that the liberals, the socialists, the communists designed to give them just enough money to barely make it and no help to get out to keep their vote.
You told me one time, you said it's expensive to be poor.
It's very expensive.
Because, and I had never, this was in the last couple of years, and I had never thought about that. But you said the interest rates are higher. You can't go as far to the grocery store, so maybe you're going to the dollar store, so you're not getting as much for your money. You're not going as far for gas, so you're getting less gas for the gas price. Just, everything is more expensive because of that. And,
and the crime rate is higher. And so, there's bars on the windows, there's bars on the doors. So there, if for that person to go in, well, it's not fair for that person that owns that convenience store to charge them more. Well, they have to, because not just anybody will work there, because it's dangerous. So you have to pay that guy more.
Right.
You have to have a surveillance system. You have to watch your inventory. You have to lock your inventory behind a locked door. Mm-hmm. I mean, it makes life more expensive on those people, and it does, in my opinion, not help them by these policies of someone that lives in a locked, gated community. I had the honor flying back on an airplane from New York or LA, or I don't remember where I was, but sit beside this liberal, and he was the nicest young man. Mm-hmm. And he said, well, you can tell, I said, I can tell by your voice, you're from the South. I said, yeah, I'm from Texas, and you listeners can tell. I've never changed my voice because this is how we speak in Texas. And we say, hey, God talks like we do. That's our thing. But anyway, this young man, he was well educated and well dressed. And he said, hey, can we talk politics? And I said, hey, I'd love to. I can do it without getting angry. Can you? He said, I can too. And I said, well, that's rare for a liberal. He said, I know. And so anyway, so I started off the conversation, whatever his name was. I said, John, I bet you're one of those rich white liberals that lives in a gated neighborhood, but you're all for helping the poor as long as they don't live in your neighborhood, right? And he laughed. He said, yeah, that's right. And I said, and I bet you want to help the lower socioeconomic people in your town. I think you may be from Philadelphia or somewhere. Mm-hmm. You want to help those poor people, don't you? He said, yeah, we're big on helping. And I said, but they don't go to school where your kids go, do they? And he said, no, you got me on that. I mean, it's easy to sit behind. I take it like medieval times. You have Nancy Pelosi live in a $8 million mansion, right, with gates and armed guards. I mean, she might as well have a moat around her castle to keep the peons out. All these liberals, they all live in the castles, and we, the peons, we live outside. That's but they make these little rules. They're going to help us.
Yeah, that's right.
Are they?
Yeah, they're not helping us. Well, let's end it with this.
Well, let's. We got a few more subjects. If we got a little bit. more time.
I got all the time. I know you're normally. I'm just trying to.
I can't be still, but as long as people are listening, what are you thinking about the Sophie Cunningham, Caitlin Clark situation?
The Sophie Cunningham, Caitlin Clark, as athletes, we always strive to be the best athlete at whatever we can do. Run faster, pick up heavier things, kick harder, break more boards, whatever. And that's the way we've always been throughout my life, and I know that's the way you've always been before me. Caitlin Clark is hated for being the best. And the issue is, as you always told me, one thing you left out of your bio is that you're one of the premier hair colorists in the world. There may be 10 people better than you at what you do worldwide.
Let's don't talk crazy.
But I mean but the stats and the awards show that that's the case. So you've always told me that it's lonely at the top because nobody wants you to be there once you're there. And so that's what's happening to Caitlin Clark. She's better than everyone. And she doesn't fit the mold that is the WNBA. And she can come out there and she can talk that trash, kind of like Larry Bird. He could talk that trash. He'd even ask me, let this white boy guard me, and all and she can talk the trash. Well, then they had to go get Sophie Cunningham kind of as her Dennis Rodman, her enforcer, if you take her down, I'm going to come over and break your wrist. and so they're so hated because they're so good. And I think it is the problem with a lot of sports organizations is they've gotten so wrapped up in DEI and all of these things and that now they can't handle that. So, it's not DEI for Caitlin Clark or Sophie Cunningham to be the best. And so they're not calling the fouls. They're not enforcing the rules when they're being hurt like they would for someone. Now, that's just my personal opinion on it. But the main issue is that they're the best and they're hated for being the best. And the WNBA is a net loser when it comes to money. They only make money because the NBA gives them money, except for Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham. So they're cutting their own throats by making these ladies want to retire because now they both have endorsement deals that'll pay them for the rest of their lives more money than they could have ever expected to make 100 times in the WNBA. So that's kind of my...
Yeah, it goes back to the story of the golden goose.
Yeah.
The golden goose, he'd lay a golden egg every day, or she would lay a golden egg every day. And the family was like, oh, man. But then one day they got greedy and like, hey, we got to kill this goose. She's laid one egg, but there's another one up inside of her. So they killed the goose so they'd have 2 eggs that day.
Yeah.
Well, guess what?
Then you were done.
You were done because you killed the goose that was laying the golden eggs. And that's Caitlin Clark.
Yeah.
So, but that brings us to another point of DEI, affirmative action. And I never really agreed with affirmative action. And I understand, back in the 60s that, hey, we're going to take an affirmative step to help minorities that we feel like can't succeed in the world of business. So we're going to give them a step up, give them some extra help so that they can get into the business world, get into the university world. So, I think that was a noble goal. But let's look at...
On the heartstrings level of it.
On the heartstrings of it.
On the heartstrings
but
level.
But now that we're 60 years in, Obama, Barry Santoro, he was half white. Mm-hmm. He never even met his biological black father until he was 10 years old. Mm-hmm. He was raised by a rich white family going to a public school. But he gets into Occidental College because he's an international student from Indonesia. And then he gets to go to Columbia University because of, affirmative action. Mm-hmm. Then he goes to Harvard to law school. And he of course, he doesn't get to clerk for a Supreme Court or something. Like, he's the president of the Harvard Law Review. That's because all the top students want to go clerk for the Supreme Court. Nobody wants that. He was an affirmative action hire because he was half black. He got a free ride. Look at Michelle Obama. They're like, well, it was only fair that she got to go to an Ivy League school. Well, was it fair to the white girl that didn't get to go because she got her spot?
Or in today's world, was it fair to the Asian lady who had higher scores than everybody else?
Oh, exactly. So I've never really been for that. But what I never understood until now, and I want to bring this out so everybody listen. This is going to be a point you might not have thought about. Okay, look at these radical left-wing lunatic judges that always rule against Trump, that always rule against
Us.
The American people that hate Make America Great Again movement.
Yeah.
I mean, they act like that's a terrible thing. Who would want to make America great again? Who are these people? They're affirmative action judges that they didn't have to earn their way into college. They didn't have to have higher scores to get into law school. Right. They didn't have to do the work in law school. They got a free ride. They got placed on the bench, many of them. Now, some of them are geniuses and way smarter than me. I'm not saying that. Right. But many of them, had they not had more melanin in their skin than others, would have never been able to rise to the point they are. Now they're these federal judges and state,
Ketanji Brown Jackson's a great example.
Ketanji Brown Jackson.
I mean, if we're just going to, just so somebody can have an idea of what we're thinking.
I wouldn't offend the Domino's pizza manager and say that she couldn't manage the Domino's pizza. That'd be offensive to the local franchise. I mean, I wouldn't hurt that guy's feelings and say, but I don't think she could. It was like Joe Biden. They're like, he couldn't manage a McDonald's. I don't know if he could have managed one, but he dang sure couldn't have worked a window.
Yeah, he couldn't order it one. He decided he went to order, much less run one.
What fries? What was wrong? So anyway, but I would say, everybody think about that. I mean, it's affirmative action that has placed all these judges that now are ruling against them. That's why I say the police officers from illegals, it's the same strategy. Yeah. We're going to put these people that are unqualified because they'll do what we say without thought, without process.
Yeah. No, that's exactly right. Well, because you're setting your pawns in place. That it is a game of chess. And I'm not that good at chess, honestly. But you're making all your moves and you're setting it up. Because here's the problem. And we can get into some of this too. Republicans don't know how to lead. Republicans don't know how to win. That's why half of them hate Donald Trump. Just like I said about, sporting events and stuff involving us. We always wanted to be the best. We always wanted to win. And then you always, inevitably find yourself in a leadership position. Just throughout life. 50% of the Republicans aren't like that. They're losers, and so the Democrats know that. And so then they're going to stack all these pawn pieces. Well, they know the Republicans don't have the backbone enough to ever be different, to ever have the courage to stand up and say what they need to say, to die on that hill, literally. They know they're going to cower away from it every time. So the Democrats put all these pieces into place, and then the Republicans will be like, well, we'll just get it next time then. Yeah, we're just going to give this to
when them. The Democrats take control, John Thune says he's going to fight hard for the American agenda. I mean, what a loser.
Yeah. And now you've got one of the representatives, I don't know, one of the crazy ones, which, side note, I don't believe you can be an elected Democrat and be a Christian. I mean, you can say you are. Look at this guy running here in Texas, this Tallarico or whatever. I mean, he's a heretic.
A.K.A. Talafrico.
Yeah, that's right. He's a heretic in every way. But they at least do what they tell you they're going to do. Now, they're going to put flowers and ribbons on it and use some words that might not exactly lead you where that you think. But if you listen to them, they're going to take your money. They're going to make the government bigger. They're going to do everything. They're going to tax the rich. They're going to subjugate you. That's what they tell you they're going to do.
Well, we had back in the day, we had Hillary Clinton and Bill, and Hillary out and out said, hey, we don't have to change our socialist progressive views. We just have to say the right things. We have to say we're for family values. We have to say we're for children. We have to say that we're American way when they weren't, but they said they were. And then a lot of people that didn't pay attention didn't know the difference. Well, then we had the Obama administration, and then, of course, they got into the voting machines and USAID money.
Oh, yeah. And
were able to flood, George Soros money buying, and then you had Microsoft and, they cut the sitting president of the United States, Donald J. Trump, off of social media while he was the president. And you think they didn't censor and affect the election?
Yeah.
Oh, that's ridiculous. People say, well, the election wasn't rigged. Did you type in anything and you could see it was 99% negative to Trump and 100% for Biden and Kamala Harris? You don't think that affects the election?
Well, and to that point, everybody should go watch the last of June's Bill Maher episode, because, I mean, even J.D. Vance makes that point very well. It's like, hey, this is crazy. But even back, my thought I had when you were talking about Clinton, of course, I was in first grade when H.W. Bush lost to Clinton, and Miss Lewis was my first grade teacher at Nash, and but I can remember just hearing you talk about, and then as I've gotten older, looking back, that's exactly what Clinton did there. Because now when you hear about Clinton was a president of the people, no, he just wanted to win. And then you look at Newt Gingrich, and those Republicans came in and balanced the budget, and then he vetoed it. And then the Republicans at that point actually were like, hey, we're going to do this because it's the first time they had the majority, and I don't know how long.
40 years.
Okay. Yeah, so 40 years. They're like, hey, we got to do something because we might not get back here. And so they were motivated. And so then they overrode the veto with a 60% majority or whatever it takes constitution.
Right. And then Dick Morris told him he wasn't going to win the next election if he didn't sign it. And he did sign it. And then, of course, now he takes credit for balancing the budget. So, you got to give him credit for going along with the Republicans, but they forced him to.
That's right. And now we're being told by representatives of the Democrat Party that they're going to stack the court. They're going to add states. They're going to do everything they can. And our John Thune, as you already pointed, won't even, he keeps gaveling in. And here, Tom Cotton's one of them.
Tom Cotton from Arkansas. What a disappointment. Oh, my gosh. They sent me those junk text on your phone, call Senator Cotton's office and tell him thank you. I texted back and said he needs to resign in disgrace for backstabbing the American people.
Right.
He's an embarrassment. I was a huge Tom Cotton fan when he came. The guy's a war veteran, Ivy League educated,
like, this could be
well spoken. I'm like, this is guy, but I think he got to Washington and he got he got with the establishment people, and he doesn't care that, 70 million people voted to go this way. And then he's like, well, I might get to be the majority leader in 20 years and reign over what, Tom? The ashes of the burnt down America?
Yeah, it's all about power and money.
Resign, Tom, resign.
And look John Cornyn just got his in their primary here, but so you have those guys partner with Thune. We can't even allow recess appointments because they're so afraid of somebody doing what's right for America. And look, do I agree 100% with Trump? No. But let me tell you what I do like about him. I like the locker room talk because I grew up in it. I like somebody that'll talk a little trash to you. Hey, we're going to bomb the hell out of you. Yeah, go ahead and let them know. But here's the thing. Then he does it. That's the thing. All right. It's like anytime you've been in the weight room, somebody talking trash and they're warming up or whatever. All right, put 2 plates on there. Okay, I can do that. All right, put 3 plates on there. Okay, I can do that. And then that other person looks at you like, oh, I don't think I can do that. Well, that's what we need. Or, playing football. Talk that trash, put that helmet on, strap up, let's see what happens. Whatever in life you want to do. There's always got to be somebody that calls you to the carpet.
Let's get after it. What do you think about some of these, the people at listening audience? We had some great Supreme Court rulings this way. We had the one, election day didn't go our way. Of course, Roberts and Amy Coney Barrett went against us, us being the American people as usual. So what do you think? They're obviously compromised but looking back on it, Amy Coney Barrett, the Supreme Court judge, remember, the Supreme Court justice died unexpectedly, and then
was that Ruth Bader Ginsburg that she replaced?
No, it was
which one it was,
but anyway, then Mitch McConnell went to Trump and said, "Hey, we've got a great conservative here. We've got a young lady, I think she went to Notre Dame, and she's been a good judge, and we can rush her through before this next election, and then in case you lose, which he did." Not really, but, they threw him in office. But then they rushed Amy Coney Barrett through her. I think she was a liberal and she just lied her way through confirmation. She was pushed by Mitch McConnell. So that tells you she was never on our team.
I think she's as Republican as a party Republican gets.
Right.
So I don't think, was she conservative as we are? Absolutely not.
Right.
Is she a standard rhino? Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
So I would think in Washington, D.C., she's probably looked at as a
moderate.
a bar, not subpar, but a par Republican that carries the Republican line.
Right.
But that's the problem.
She's voted against us 65 to 70% of the time on the major rulings. She's always joined with the liberals.
And John Roberts, I mean,
boy, hadn't he been a disappointment? Of course, put in by Bush. And then as we look back, of course, I was a huge Bush supporter.
Right.
And, for all the things. And, of course, as history's proven, that wasn't a very good choice. Of course, better than having Al Gore.
Yeah. Well, Al Gore said that we already, the whole Earth was going to be flooded by
and
now.
that's the thing. He made $1 billion. That's $1,000 million off of this climate change hoax. And every prediction he made was wrong. And it was all a lie. He wasn't misinformed. He was lying to make money. And now I think he's got out a new book. So any of you libtards out there that want to go, y'all rush out there and buy Al's book. He needs another $1 billion because he's wasted all that flying all over the globe.
Yeah,
and
helping the climate.
When nothing happened. Not one thing he said happened.
That's exactly. Well, have you seen the meme that's out there, meme or meme? I don't ever say it right. That's got like, this president went to war for this, and this president went to war for this, and it's got George W. Bush holding the American flag. It's like, this guy went to war for the love of the game. It's like he knew he just wanted to go to war, and I'm like, I think that's right.
Not being from Texas, I was a big George W. fan, but then of course, he comes out and votes against Trump, votes for Hillary.
Right.
So I mean, now really,
did you see that the court did uphold the law banning men from women's sports?
Oh yeah, I like it.
Well, here's my deal. If you're really a feminist, right, and you're really for women, then why do you want men in women's sports?
I don't think there's such a thing as a feminist.
Explain.
Well, to your point, what person that wants to empower women would want grown men in a women's restroom, in a little girl's restroom, in a little girl's locker room?
That's right.
If there were truly any feminists, they would have been outraged and put an instant stop to this. The feminist is a fake movement, in my opinion. It just means a radical atheist leftist that hates men. That's what a feminist is, because they're not for females. Actually, if you would let a grown man swim in the college championships and win and then celebrate them,
tie. He tied, and then they still gave him the trophy and told her they would mail her. He truly wasn't even good enough to beat women in a women's sport. I mean, now he did take, but I'm just saying.
He went from like 278th in the men and went to the women and was able to win. If I don't think there's such a thing as a feminist. So, any of you so-called feminists, prove me wrong. What have you done? Have you protested that boys can go in the girls' locker room? What, 8th grade girl changing her clothes in the junior high locker room wants an 8th grade boy in there with her, even though he says he's a man.
Yeah. I mean,
he's a girl.
It just isn't a thing. Well, one thing that comes to my mind with my daughter, and this, I'm very particular about because we travel, we go places, and we're going to stop at the bathroom. I'm going to be standing outside the door. A lot of times I will. And there was this thing about the guy. I don't know if you saw it.
I saw that recently. Yeah, when he took his daughter,
and I will take her to the women's restroom because a lot of time they're cleaner and all that. But now I will walk in there and say hello. And now that she's older, I don't have to. I just kind of wait by the door. But especially as we were, coming through it. But I would say, hello, I got my daughter just going to come in here. And then I would let her go in the stall. And then I would stand outside the stall.
Right.
And ladies would come in. I'd say, hey, I'm sorry. I'm just got my daughter. Never, not one time was it a problem. Right. It was never an issue. But had someone tried to, I'm a big fella. But fairly dangerous. Like, you're not coming in here with her, and it just it drives me.
And why would a person want to?
Because they're evil,
right?
I mean, that's the end all be all of that. There is no, so I see your point on that, because feminism, it didn't help women at all. It didn't, and you've probably heard me say this. I'm sure I've told you before, but I think, like, I was looking at stats earlier, maybe it was late last week, and like 55 to 57% of my listening audience are women.
Man, that's good. So women, everybody pay attention. I'm gonna, I don't want to offend you, but I just want to think about this.
Don't make him say it twice.
I never repeat gossip. Better listen close the first time. But the founding fathers and Samuel Adams spoke about this. Women couldn't vote. Women couldn't vote, not because Samuel Adams thought they were unintelligent. He thought they were more intelligent than the men. Yeah. But he thought they could be manipulated.
Which brings you to the most volatile voting class.
Because of emotion.
Yeah.
And then when I was in the 9th grade, I read George Orwell, 1984. He got the timing wrong. It was 80 years off.
Yeah.
I mean, he was 40 years off. It took, it took longer, but it happened exactly as he said. And one thing he said, the consumers of the slogans and the emotional jargon were always the young women. And look in our country, it's the unmarried white liberal women that vote against the conservative way.
And the gay guys.
The married women, they're fighting for their children. They're fighting for their husband. They're fighting for their church. I mean, our greatest asset as conservatives is the married women, because they've got our back and they want the best for their children. They want the best for their
That's right.
their families. But now the especially the white liberal unmarried woman, they hate the American way of life, and I think a lot of it's because they're non-believers. And so why, my brother always tells me this, is why would we expect an unsaved, non-Christian person to act like a saved Christian person and have virtue and have self-worth and all the things? I mean, they don't, and we get irritated. We don't understand how they could think. We're like, well, it's a mental disorder. No, it's a soulless disorder. I mean, what are all the problems? But anyway, I think that's just another thought process. It wasn't that the founders didn't think women were intelligent. They knew they were, but it's just they thought they could be manipulated because they're so emotional. But and so that's look at what's happening.
Well, I had that conversation with Jen McRaffoon. She's running for, trying to be a write-in candidate or independent candidate for Texas governor. And she sat right where you're sitting and made the same point. Was, hey, the Bible and Proverbs, I think it's Proverbs, says that, the choice wife should be able to negotiate the price of your field and should be, understand the way, even your wife, run your business and do. And that's right. So it's not belittling to trust with everything.
Right. That's in Proverbs 31. And anybody, even if you're not a biblical scholar or even if you've never picked up a Bible, if you the wife of noble character in Proverbs chapter 31, and the city gates, the entry into the city, that was like the mall. That's where commerce took place. That's where everything happened. And it says, a wife of noble character rises at sunrise, and she works diligently even after the night. She sits at the city gate. She examines a field and she purchases it with her earnings. It doesn't say women shouldn't work or that women aren't intelligent. It's very clear in the Bible that a wife of noble character can do all these things.
Yeah.
And my wife certainly does.
Yeah,
I mean, she's just the love of my life and the hardest working woman that I have ever known.
Yeah.
Outworks me.
Yeah.
And so, just so proud of her. But, that's all the things. And another Supreme Court ruling that we went our way was the 90-year precedent that the president, and not that Trump has to do this, but, it was a great honor for President Trump to be the president when the ruling came down, is that, hey, he can get rid of these deep state people that were appointed by these agencies that aren't even in the Constitution. He's the chief executive, and anybody that's in the executive branch, he has the power to fire them, in which presidents for the last 90 years haven't had that power. So, some of the liberal media spun that as, they changed the meaning of the No.
They went back to it.
They went back to the original, as we learned in civics in the 9th grade, the 3 branches of government. And he's the chief executive. And if you're in the executive branch, he can fire you.
And so here's the ruling that you're talking about 90 years ago was the Humphreys Educator versus United States was 1935 was, because the court's bad about precedent. This is the way it's been. This is what we decided then. We're not going to change it. But luckily, and this, once again, this good for Roberts and Coney Barrett for being with us on this. They said, hey, there's only 3 legislative branches. And some will say, well, but they made it where he can't fire this lady from the Federal Reserve. Actually, that's not what the ruling says. That's just pending litigation that they're letting play out. So he hadn't lost that one yet either, so much as it's still working its way through the court system. But yeah, he could definitely come into the Federal Trade Commission or the whatever commission and say, hey, you're gone. Which that's the deep state, right? Everybody, there's no deep state. Yeah, these are the unelected bureaucrats that are making laws that they're not. And because of the Chevron doctrine that the court always already found against, they could make a rule and then it became law and then everybody had to follow it. So first the court dismantled that. Now they're saying, hey, the president can fire people in these organizations. So all of that's coming together. If you look at, which is why I'm kind of leaning towards giving John Roberts a little more credit now than I probably would have 2 years ago, because on the scope of the Chevron decision, this decision, some of the others, it's like, okay, there's a shaping here of, and then even in this article from Edward T. Winslow on X, he goes to talk about, Roberts worked for the Reagan administration and was a proponent of a strong executive. And then when he goes through his decisions and the cases that he's worked in, how since I think Roberts was 2005, to George Bush primarily, since 2005-ish, somewhere in there, is strengthening the office of the executive back to what it had been before it was kneecapped by that decision there in 1935.
So anyway, that was a great ruling. And then one other thing let's talk about is, hey, for all you people that are listening, we have just been so thankful for the World Cup and all the people coming from Europe and around the world to see the greatness of America. I'm sitting here with my Texas flag and my American flags on my shirt, and got the 4th of July in the air. Yeah. And we've got our 250th birthday of the United States of America. And I'm just so proud to be an American. But gosh, these people, Zach, are coming and getting to witness America, and it's just grand to see.
Well, you like you've been a lot more places than I have, but we've had the blessing, mainly through your hard work, of being able to, and then of course Mom and Jamie and everybody else, but through being able to travel the world, and and I understand not everybody's had that opportunity, and thank God for it. Like I said, it's through hard work that we got it, but also through the grace of God. When you go somewhere, people look at you different because you're an American, and they understand, and they will tell you, yeah, you guys just walk a little bit different. You guys are a little more confident. But then they got here. They're like, oh, this is amazing. But what's amazing about it, especially from the World Cup standpoint, is that these other countries where they've dropped this World Cup into them, these regions of the world, it's bankrupted them. Because they didn't have the highway system. They didn't have all it took to build these stadiums, to make all these things work that they needed. Here it's like, yeah, we can schedule you in between the other events we have because of capitalism, because of the American way, because we already have the interstate system. We already have Cowboy Stadium in Arlington, or SoFi Stadium out in California, or whatever's up in Oregon, or wherever they're playing up there, or the War Eagle Stadium down there in Alabama. We've already got all that.
Well, and their media was saying that we didn't have the stadiums that they would need. It's been looked at now as that we could host the next 4 World Cups and never use the same stadium twice.
Really? I haven't, and I've seen where they're already talking about bringing it back in 2038 just because no other countries can afford it. Where now, because of the American way of life, because of the way we do things, there have been more live attendance to the World Cup this year than ever before in history.
I think it's over like almost 3.5 million visitors came to the United States and spent their money. Now, they had to fly here. They had to rent a car. They had to buy gas. They had to buy food. They had to stay in hotels, and all that raises taxes, and all that. A rising tide lifts all ships. This is something that Donald Trump did in his first term. We're going to have the Olympics. We had 5. The World Cup. These things all make us money, and we all prosper.
Yeah.
Just like we've got trillions and trillions of dollars of investment coming from overseas to build factories in America. Like, well, Donald Trump hasn't changed anything yet. Well, he's only been in there less than 2 years.
Right.
You got 2 more years to go, and look at all these factories that are getting built, and everybody's going to have
somebody else that gets the credit for it.
Yeah, oh yeah, it'll be someone else that gets the credit for it. But it was because of his initiative to understand that, no, we're not going to manage decline. We're the greatest country in the world, and we're going to grow, and we're going to continue to grow. But let's stay on the Europe thing.
Well, hold on. Let me tie this to something. Just hold that thought. Let me tie this to something that you said earlier, which was everybody on earth's been affected by Christianity. When you think about this, and you think about this interstate system, and this, and then you can even think about Jefferson, Texas, right down the road. It'll play into this. The United States was built by railroad. Who built the railroad here? Well, the railroad is what allowed the Industrial Revolution and expansion. And you take that back, and then that came, our railroad guys who helped us design it were British railroad engineers. They came over from Great Britain, and we hired them to come here and do that. Well, the tracks in Great Britain are the same width apart as they are here. And then that comes from, the reason they're that width is because on the Roman roads and the Roman stone that they had in Great Britain, all their carts drawn by horse, and trains at first were drawn by horse too, by the way. They just made the tracks to trains that same width that was cut into that limestone, which came from ancient Rome. So the width of a cart in the time of Jesus on a Roman road would be the same width of a train car that you see passing here. Now, I'm not saying everybody that had everything, but through carrying Bibles, through carrying the message, because if you look at it, Alexander the Great conquered the known world, and he got Greek to be the common language, just as English is today. And then that allowed Christianity to spread. Then the Romans came in with their road system, and that allowed Christianity to spread. So that language from the Greeks then moved through the Romans, then moved through Christianity as it went can touch all the way to train cars, which then allowed the expansion of the United States, which then allows this interstate system, which improved the World Cup. Right? I know that might be a stretch for some people, but that's how I can connect it all in my mind of, yeah, everybody on earth has been impacted by the rise of the United States, by Christianity being our dominant religion. But even if it wasn't our dominant religion, it was, especially towards the end of Rome. And so it's all carried through.
Well, and speaking of that, just to talk about our interstate system was really, made because, our government saw that Hitler in Germany could transport his military across Germany quickly because they had things like the Autobahn.
Yeah.
And we didn't have that. It took a long time to get military from one coast to another. So they came up with this interstate system. The ones running east and west are, start 10, 20, 30, end in 0. And the ones running north and south and, 5, 15, 25, 35. Right. And that's how the interstate system goes. But if you notice the bridges, every time you go under an underpass on the interstate, it says the height is 16 foot, 6 inches square. It's a common height because that's the height that the missiles on the back of the trailer need to get under that. So we can load up our military, shoot them across the country, and be there, in 20 hours, anywhere in the United States. And so all of that, the military hasn't helped us. Well, they have helped everything. Everybody benefits every day. The food that you go and look in your refrigerator, it got there by the interstate system, which was a functional derivative of the military system and us trying to keep our safe. I recently was in some foreign countries in South America and Central America, and it's interesting to see. The first thing they want to take you to, the tourist destinations, are the old forts. Hey, we put this fort here up on this hill to keep the invaders from the other countries out and to protect our country. Uh-huh. And then I'm like, in the 1600s, you had Spain and France and these other countries conquering these island nations, and even the coastal of South America and Central America to protect their countries. And then now we're so unintelligent. We're telling our enemies, hey, just come on in. We'll welcome you in. And not only that, we will pay you.
Yeah, we'll pay for your house. We'll give you free food.
We got back off my point of the World Cup, and these Europeans are like, what do you get, 8 weeks off or what? Because how could you afford? I couldn't afford to go to New York and then go to Los Angeles to watch a football game, and then go back to Atlanta to watch my team. What are these guys doing?
Go to Boston and drink all the beer in the town.
They're just partying like rock stars. And I'm gonna tell you one thing: the reason they can do that is because they're taking 60-70% of our money in taxes, the United States government, and we're paying $300 billion a year to protect them.
To NATO.
And they're sitting over there having 3-hour lunches and getting 8 weeks of vacation, and they can have these liberal views because they don't have to pay for a military, per se, because we're protecting them. And I'm glad Trump's saying, hey, you're not going to support us. We're going to bring our troops back, and we'll put them on our own border, and you guys can pay your own way. And I'm tickled to death about that.
I remember being in Europe one time and sitting there eating lunch. And I remember where it was. It was on the corner right beside the Louvre in Paris. You come out from under the arch, and not the Arc de Triomphe, but there's an archway coming onto the road there, and there's a little cafe on the corner there. And I was sitting there, and golly, I was just so impatiently waiting. I had a lot to do that day. I want to see every museum. I want to see every statue. I want to read everything. I want to hit all the things. I want to do all the things. About an hour in, and I hadn't even got my food yet. I was like, "Hey, buddy, Monsieur, well, where's food at?" He's like, "Hey, we're in France, buddy. You're gonna enjoy your lunch."
And that would be a good problem to have, but we've got to go back to work.
But I remember thinking, you can do that because we're paying to keep the Russians or whoever from coming in here and killing you. So you've got time. You can have your 30-hour work week, and you can have your 3-hour lunch and your hour tea if you're in the UK. And I just remember thinking, oh, okay, we're getting ripped off.
Oh, absolutely.
We're getting ripped off all the way.
And then, this $37 trillion debt that we have, I read an article this week, 16 trillion in assets by these non-governmental organizations. Most of these non-governmental organizations, their only funding mechanism is, guess what?
Us.
The government.
Yeah. And guess who they hate? Us.
The taxpayers. Yeah, they hate a conservative. And so, I look at the Republicans, and you Republicans out there in the listening world, listen, hey, this is like, if you ever go see Harlem Globetrotters when you were a kid, the basketball team, which originally was from Chicago, I always thought was funny. But
I didn't know that.
The Harlem Globetrotters, and they go around, they put on these exhibition games. Well, they bring this team with them named the Generals.
Yeah.
Well, the Generals, their job is to put up a contest, but to lose, and to make the Globetrotters look good.
Yeah.
So they've got to, they have a basketball game, but you've got to let the guy slam on you. He shoots 4 times from half court because he misses, but then he makes one. Oh, and there the crowd erupts. And he's dribbling between his legs, but you don't steal the ball while he's doing all that because you're on the same team.
Right.
That's the Republicans. They're the Generals, and the Democrats are the Harlem Globetrotters. They get on the same bus and they get their checks from the same people.
They eat in the same dining hall.
They eat in the same dining hall. And they're just you've got the left wing of the bird and the right wing of the bird. It's just one big government bird, and that's why, Zach, I hear you call it the uniparty, and that's what people like Tom Cruise of Arkansas are on. And I'm beginning to wonder. Tom Cotton, and I'm beginning to wonder about Ted Cruz, which I've always been a fan of, but I've questioned him too, especially over the January 6th stuff. You know, and then I have close friends that were at January 6th, and they said from the word go it was a hoax. Yeah. Those people started. They were singing "God Bless America" and saying the pledge, and the Capitol Police just ran in there and started beating the hell out of them. And you hear it, and you've had people on your show that said, they're like, "Well, you got charged with hitting a police officer," and he's like, "You dang right I did. He hit me with that baton 4 times for saying the pledge, and I punched him in the face, and then I got arrested." Exactly that whole thing. Now there's empirical evidence that whole thing was set up.
Hundreds, or a couple hundred, close to 300, but I think like 275 federal agents in the crowd as instigators. We've talked to somebody, you and I have, that saw the gates get moved and like got to the Capitol steps,
and they brought the buses of the Antifa people, dressed in, and you have the Antifa people on video admitting that, hey, yeah, we put on Trump stuff and we went in. They paid us to go in and wreck the place. Right. That wasn't the conservative. I'm sure there was a few nuts that did it. Yeah. But you had clear video now that was a 100% paid for hoax. No. It was to overthrow the United States government. Yeah. Because and all you people are like, oh, these guys are crazy. No, look it up. There's plenty of video. There's plenty of information. There's a show on Newsmax called Cowboy Logic, and they have gone into in-depth interviews with all these prisoners from January 6th, and they recount their stories of what happened. And as an American, it just make you sick at your stomach to the point you have to go in the bathroom and throw up to hear how we treated these Americans, because all they wanted, hey, let's wait 2 weeks and make sure and count these votes. Right.
But, the most hated group here in Texarkana is the Bowie County Patriots. And but because of the Patriots, I've had the opportunity to meet 3 or 4 of these January 6th people, and it's always the same story. Because the Patriots are good about bringing people in that might have a little bit different viewpoint, but we need to learn from. And so, but it's always that story every time I meet some of them, and it's just amazing. Well, let's I want to leave here with some hope. I want to leave here with some good news, and that news is Jesus. But now a lot of people have heard all that we've talked about and think, and there are going to be some people like, man, I've never put all this together that way. And there's going to be some old boy driving down the road going, hey, that's right, boys, that's exactly like it is, and we appreciate that. But there's somebody out there thinking, golly, it's going to take a miracle to fix all this. And maybe it is. But I believe in miracles. So hit us with some hope.
Let me recount a story. When Zach here was in the 11th grade on a state championship football team, for first week of practice of his junior year, he was in a massive car wreck and had an internal eggshell fracture of his skull. And they come find me at work. I was opening a new business, and it's 10:30 at night, and the doctor comes in and he says the brain surgeon, the neurosurgeon, says, Danny, it's bad. It's real bad. I said, well, what's the prognosis? I mean, I'm optimistic. I'm thinking, hey, probably broke his collarbone, won't be able to play this year. No, he said, no, he's got brain damage. Prognosis is he got a 50-50 chance to live through the night. I'm going to have to put a bolt in his brain to measure his intracranial pressure, and they put it in there, and it's 30. And I go, boy, if it gets above 30, it fries your brain, and it's at 30, and I'm just praying. And I'm like, oh, my gosh, Lord, help me, save me. Save Zach, dude, I'll take places with him. Just whatever. His mother comes in, looks at the x-ray, and faints. I mean, just looking at it, you're just like, oh, my gosh. And I'm like, what are you thinking, Doc? And the guy's like, man, he looks like he's probably going to be blind, deaf, if he does live, paralyzed on one side. And the next day, a pastor came, and he said, Danny, you don't know me, but I was passing through Texarkana 2 days ago. I've been sitting here on the bed in the motel room, and I don't know it. My phone rang, and it's someone that knows you, and I'm driving over here, and the Lord speaks to me and says, the boy's name is Zach, and it's not my will that he dies. You tell his dad he's going to live, and he's going to walk out of that hospital. Well, Zach stayed in a coma, and on the 14th day, they transferred him from Texarkana's hospital to Baylor Treatment Center in Dallas, Texas, and for brain rehab. But when he got to the door, he said, stop. And he got up and walked and got in the ambulance. So he did walk out of there, but he laid in that coma where they said he wasn't going to wake. And this man said, hey, it's not God's will that he dies. He said, you have to know, like a lady knows that she's pregnant. No matter what they say, you believe the report of the Lord. And those doctors would be so mad at me. They'd say, Mr. Rateliff, you don't understand the severity of the situation. You just can't comprehend what's going to happen. I said, I comprehend that the Lord's in control and you're not. And when they tried to wake Zach up out of that coma, our sign when we're deer hunting or skiing or whatever we're doing was, hey, thumbs up, everything's good, let's roll. And he's in that coma, and they're beating on him, they're hammering on him, they're pinching him, and they're like, it's like he's in a well. He can hear us, but he can't respond because this arm over here that was paralyzed, that wasn't going to move. I saw that thumb go up. He gave me that thumbs up. I said, oh boy, he can hear me. You see that? You see that? And of course, the nurses, doctors, everybody's in the room. They're like, sir, you're just an optimistic father. That arm did not move. I said, by gosh, it did.
Yeah.
You do it again. And so they started beating on him. They started knocking on him. I'm like, Zach, it's Dad. Can you hear me? And that thumb went up. I said, I told you he could hear me, and that arm can move too. He's going to be fine. So he stayed in a coma a few more days. And every day, there's this preacher that came in. He said, hey, you have your body, soul, and spirit. His spirit is not asleep. He can hear us. You don't let these doctors say anything in here. If they need to talk to you and say something negative, they can do it outside. You come in here, you tell him what's going on. He can hear you. He can understand. And even though he's unconscious in this coma. And so every day I would say, hey, Zach, you were in a wreck. You hurt your head, but you're okay. And when he woke up out of that coma, of course, they took all those tubes down his throat and up his nose and both out of his head. And the doctor said, Zach, do you know what happened? He said, I was in a wreck and I hurt my head, but I'm okay. So anybody that doesn't think the Lord can't have a miracle, he can. I've witnessed it. I've witnessed this, someone whose head was bigger than an NBA basketball. You had to look inside 2 inches just to see his ears, thousands of fractures in his skull. And I saw that young man get up, and that's who you hear today because of the power of the Lord. So if you don't think Jesus Christ can save you, he can. We all are born with the inherent ability to know that God speaks to us. Now, he may not verbally speak to you, but that thing that you think is your conscience, that's the Lord speaking to you. And when you feel bad because you said that curse word, that's the Holy Spirit. When you feel bad that you cut in front of that person and you knew you did, that's the Holy Spirit. And if you'll listen to that, he'll guide you. And if you'll read your Bible, just turn to John, chapter 1, verse 1. Start reading John, and then read the Gospels, and then read Acts. You don't have to be a biblical scholar. Get a New International Version or some type of study Bible that has notes at the bottom. And you don't have to be a particular religion. Jesus wasn't a particular religion. Anybody that believes in Jesus Christ and to be saved, you have to confess with your mouth, believe in your heart that Jesus Christ rose from the dead and lived again. If you do that, you will be saved and you may have eternal life. It's no more complicated than that. You just say that prayer to yourself. Jesus, I believe in you. I believe that you died. I believe that you rose again, and I believe that you can save me from my sins. And if you'll say that prayer to God, He'll come in, he'll save you. And if you'll start reading your Bible and you'll start changing your habits and you'll march towards the cross where they crucified Jesus and he rose again and he lives today and he will return. If you'll do those things, your life will change. I'm not saying that you don't have consequences in your life and that Satan won't attack you, because he will. But the power that's in me is greater than the power that's in the world, and we will conquer this thing together as Americans and as Christians. We've been so blessed. Let's appreciate that and spread that word.
Man, thank you, Dad. That's exactly right. Thank you for the story. I didn't know where you'd go, but I knew you'd have one. And look, that's why I give all the credit to him. That's what giving credit to God is what started this podcast, honestly. So I think we're going to end it with that. Dad, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me. People out there in the United States, especially you people in Texas, hey, we love you. Let's fight for the greater good.
Yeah.
And remember, hey, they may knock us down, but we're going to get up because we're Americans. And you people in Europe and in the other countries that are listening, even over in Asia, hey, God's got our back. He's got like the song you learned when you were kids, he's got the whole world in his hands. And so we appreciate you listening. Thank you so much for just having us in your home today.
That's right. All right, everybody. I hope God blesses each and every one of you.